What's up guys, it's Lady Calysta. This video is going to be my part 3 video. It is about familiars and we are going to do a little bit of a deep dive on the monsters. So I know there's a lot of questions about the monsters, so we'll talk about the monsters that they have in packs 1, 2, 3, and 4. Packs 1 and 2 have 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B. So there are a total of 6 different packs. So 6 different groups of familiars or monsters, however you want to call them, that we have basically at our disposal. The best way to see all of them is to go into your Mystic Spire, go into your packs, and then we're going to basically explore what these guys do. So if I had to basically create a high level, this is what in general packed 1A, 1B monsters do. It would totally be production. So if you're interested in a familiar or a monster that is going to aid in your production rates, right? So you're looking for timber production, stone production, or production. That's where packed 1 monsters and familiars are going to help you. So if that is your focus, you came to the right place, right? This one is a timber production familiar, oak root. The other one, there's and they look pretty cool, right? Like there's Magma Lord, and he's a stone production. So I would say all the big ones, right, from pack 1A and 1B will give you production. The ones that I would call out, one of them is I believe it's in pack 1B, Aquarius. He's kind of interesting because he's going to help your anima production. So if your regular resource production stuff doesn't interest you or you don't really need any help there, then you can think about Aquarius, and he's going to give you STA, and he's also going to help your anima production, right? So he's somebody that produces something that's kind of different. In 1B, there is also Beastmaster. Beastmaster, he helps your supply travel, your troop travel speed increase. Don't really think it's worth it, if I'm being totally honest. I feel like out of the packed 1 familiars, since they're all production based, the anima production one is kind of the more interesting one. It'll, I think, maxed out give you a production of plus 40, which is great. But I don't think any of the other kind of packed 1 familiars warrant you taking it and training it and leveling it up. Now let's go to packed 2. So pack 2 has a bit more variety. So we're moving away from just production. There are production, and let's go to pack 2A so you can see there are production in here, familiars, and you know them by name, these guys, right? Because they'll come in every couple of months and you can hunt them, like the Weevil, right? So he's going to help you with food. There's the Toad Tempest, and he will help you with timber. So there are some production familiars here. The difference is they produce a higher max rate, right? So these are 35% versus the 25% that you're going to find in packed 1. Now, pack 2, in addition to production, also has a couple of other heroes. So if we look at Strix, and we look at her quick fix, this actually reduces your execution wait time by 30 minutes. So if you're somebody that has a lot of prisoners, this is kind of interesting. She will also give you a plus 5% for infirmary healing speed. This familiar to me feels really KVK-ish, right? Like it's going to help you heal, and it's going to help you basically reduce the amount of time it takes to execute a hero. So that's Strix, and she is in pack 2A. Another interesting one in pack 2A that I will mention is for the simple fact that it's such a mix, right? So let's take a look at Tempestite. So his thing is wall defense. Now you guys know, if you've seen any of my videos, don't focus on wall defense. Like, it's just not the smart thing to do. There's so many other things you should be focusing on. Wall defense isn't one of them. But let's keep going and take a look at this. And the reason that I'm highlighting this for you is, again, this is something kind of interesting. His fresh air skill, where he gets 3,000 random tier 1 troops, and at maximum strength, and there's a cooldown of 3 days, guys, for this one, he gets 20,000 random tier 1 troops. It's kind of interesting. I feel like this might be an interesting guy to have there, kind of constantly running him. He's packed level 2, so he's really easy to get. You don't have to do a ton of research to get to him. So I wanted to call that one out because I thought it was weird and like different. In terms of pack 2B, I've talked about pack 2B quite a bit because that's the one that I decided to go for my first pact. The reason that I did was for Pyrus. Didn't really think either of his initial skills were that exciting, other than Blazing Trail. I thought was great, where he will kill, when he's maxed out, he'll kill 7,500 to 12,500 troops in the enemy's barracks, assuming they're not more than 5%, and he's going to kill the lower tier troops first. So he would basically go after the meat shield, which is not like Grim Reaper, and we'll talk about him in a second. So I thought he was kind of cool from an attack perspective. Boulder Krabby, you guys know them. That's Stone Production, Ore Production. Bonehead, he's an interesting one because he is basically about the anima storage. So like, I think the other guy was called Aquarius, right? He was helping your anima production. Bonehead is going to help your anima storage, right? So if you're focusing there, that's kind of interesting. For 2B, I don't think I have anything else that's interesting to call out. Now let's take a look at pack 3. Once we get to pack 3, this is the first time that we just have all of them together and we don't necessarily have them split out between A and B. So out of pack 3, the ones that are really interesting, I think, is the maxed allied troop size, which is what your Griffin is going to give you. So you can see your max allied troop size is going to be plus 5,000. He has a training speed boost here, so at max it's a 5% training speed. Not amazing, but not bad either. And then here, his last one, he can recall all troops within 50 seconds. And then maxed out, he can recall all troops within 6 seconds. So that's kind of an interesting type skill. But the training I thought was kind of cool, as well as being able to increase your allied troop size by 50,000. So that one was an interesting pack 3 familiar to bring up. There are familiars here that are going to help you with construction speed. So take a look at this. The Gem and Goblin, we all know him from Labby, and you can see that he'll give you a max strength construction speed of plus 5%, and he has a few other skills. His max skill, his Stroke of Fortune, he grants 200 to 400 gems, but when he's maxed out, he grants 1,000 to 2,000 gems. Not bad, right? So a lot of these, when I look at the 3rd level, they feel really like part of your castle, right? Like some of them are going to help you with research speed, like Trickstar. He's going to help you with your research speed. You can see that right there. He's also going to give you stars at the end, which is pretty cool. But it definitely doesn't feel like it's necessarily like where you're gonna find the big fighters, right? In pack 3, it's going to be things that are going to be helpful. They're going to give you gems. They're going to give you stars. They're going to help you with your research speed, your construction speed, your gathering speed, right? So that's kind of like the theme of pack 3. Now let's go into pack 4 and figure out what that theme is. So pack 4 is your heavy hitters. This is the stuff that everybody's trying to get to, right? If you're a big fighter and you want to use familiars in your fighting. So all of them are pretty decent. So let's start with the first one, Mech Trojan, and he is going to basically help your cavalry max HP plus 10%. So this is pretty cool. So for those of you that have specialties, right, think about, and I have a reinforcements video that would be helpful in deciding this. Think about what flanks you're typically running, right, or wedge. Who is your front line? Right? I always recommend that front line needs to be tough. They need to be strong, right? So some of these familiars are going to help. So if your front line is composed of Cav, Mech Trojan is a really good familiar to have. If your front line is comprised of infantry, I think we have the Tidal Titan is going to help with infantry. He's going to help with your infantry HP, which is really helpful. He also has army defense, not as helpful when you think about like the most important stats. That's probably at the very bottom. And then he also has a relocation. This one's really interesting. So take a look at this. Relocates an enemy turf after a successful attack. I don't know if that is super helpful if you're trying to zero someone, right? You don't want them to relocate after you've hit them. But I thought that was kind of interesting if they're hitting somebody else. So where that will be really awesome is if you have somebody invading your hive and you're a big guy and you hit this guy and you burn him, well, poop, he poofs away, right? So you can defend your guys that way. I think in that situation, he's actually really cool for those defenders of justice out there. But I feel like the opportunities there are somewhat limited, right? So for infantry title Titan, I believe Helldrider also has an infantry boost. He has an infantry max HP. So for all you guys running infantry in your kind of front lines, you're in luck. There's a couple of familiars here that are going to be able to give you a hand. Now take a look at Prison Break. Your leader escape, you have a percentage of 2%, and when you max them out, you have a 10% boost here. So your leader can escape before it gets executed. So that's really interesting, right? And then his level, his next one, Convocation, is also interesting. He grants 3,000 random troops from the highest tier available to you, and when he's maxed out, he grants 15,000 random troops from the highest tier available to you. If you're a T4 player, 15,000 T4 every 3 days, not bad, guys, especially when you think about how expensive it is to create T4. So T4 players, Convocation, I am highlighting this for you. It is a good one. In terms of the other ones that we have on here, nothing to mention that is particularly interesting, I think, other than there's going to be a lot of them are going to have secondary skills that are going to be around defense. And then the last skill, which I think is always the more interesting one, is talking about, of course, we're going to talk about Grim Reaper, right? So Grim Reaper, travel speed, ranged max HP. For those of you that are focused on range, this is going to be a really great familiar. And then his Kiss of Death. And this is the one that has caused, I think, the most angst amongst people, and that's because of his max strength skill. It has a cooldown time of only 30 minutes, you guys, and you can kill 20,000 to 50,000 troops in an enemy's barracks, and it's going to be the higher tier troops first. So T4 players, if you have a couple of people on the opposing side that have Grim Reaper and they have this Kiss of Death, they could sit there and follow you and every 30 minutes kill off 20 to 50k of your T4. That is incredibly painful. The mic drops are going to be incredible when we start seeing this stuff out there in the game live. This is where, and I explained this in my research video, the wards are going to be helpful, but wards only help you for 2 hours. So what I feel the wards are going to try to do is try to eliminate when you're kind of getting attacked by multiple people every 30 minutes. You can pop a ward and you're going to force them to wait 2 hours. Hopefully they go to sleep. I don't know. But it's scary, right? And I think this is something that's been causing people a lot of stress, is how this is going to play out, especially in some of the rougher kingdoms out there. So that is it, guys. That is a high-level overview of the monsters. I just called out some of them that I thought were kind of interesting for you guys to think about. Again, the decisions are all yours. It depends on what you're running. It depends on what you're focused on. It depends on where you are in your journey, right, of Lords Mobile. Do you have T4 unlocked? Do you not? Are you hypering a certain resource? Are you not? If you have any questions, feel free to put them down below. And as usual, thank you so much for watching.